Let me do the closing, which is, I think, is a little moot at this particular point. But let me try to explain to a jury why Diddy must walk, maybe will walk, or maybe will have his case overturned on appeal. Okay? I'm going to do this again for the millionth time. It's not because he's a good guy, or it's not because he treats women like, or doesn't treat them like dirt. It's not because there might be a couple of them in the midst of his fold who became dependent on him, or were demeaned, or maybe some were threatened. But this is not trafficking. This is not racketeering, and it's not a violation of the Mann Act. The overall strategy is simply this, and this is important to understand. It's debauchery. It's not criminal. It's not federal. That's really the bottom line. This case is about moral depravity, the disapproval, the disgust towards this guy and his lousy lifestyle. It's not about proof of federal crimes proved beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. The defense, I hope, convinced the jury that while Diddy may be guilty of excesses and vulgarity and sickness with that stupid attitude and the sick lifestyle, he may have beat the hell out of Cassie, he is not guilty of orchestrating a criminal enterprise or trafficking anyone. Trafficking! Not using, not taking advantage of. Trafficking! Let's look at the RICO conspiracy. This was not an enterprise. And the predicate acts, oh my God. The best argument for me was there was no enterprise. There was no criminal enterprise. This wasn't the mafia. This wasn't a celebrity traffic group. This was an entourage. It was a posse. It wasn't a crime syndicate. What are they talking about? It was Hugh Hefner. It was this ridiculous, well, or not so. It was a bunch of people. It's been around. It's not, do you think the Manson family was trafficking? Do you think they were an enterprise? Maybe. All of a sudden, they're trying. The only reason they're charging them with trafficking is because they got to get it into federal court, and there is no case for a non-trafficking form of addressing this particular activity. The alleged acts, the drugs, the sex, the money, the violence, were isolated incidents. This is what I would argue. Not part of a coordinated plan. That's the issue here. That's what's critical. Now, this is the most important. Continuity. Continuity is one of the elements of this. I hope they showed, or maybe for Diddy's, to show that the incidents were episodic, chaotic, not abusive, but not organized, not systematic, choreographed. They weren't a part of an organized system. There wasn't this pattern, this organized pattern, this continuity. You then have to look at maybe perhaps they undermine the notion of the others. You can say that nobody was employed in a criminal network. In essence, there were friends and there were girlfriends, there were staff, and there were trollops and fallen women, or whatever you call it. But it was all voluntarily. They were all voluntarily present in the orbit, in his orbit of fame and excess. And let me tell you something. I'll bet you they threatened people. I bet you they treated this woman like shit. I'll bet you if you go back to the days of the 80s with Eileen Ford and you look at what those supermodels went through, especially those women who came from foreign countries, who didn't know any better, who were made to do cocaine and coffee and couldn't eat. And oh my God, do you really want to go through all this? I'll bet you if you looked at the gymnastics group, remember Bela Karolyi and those folks? I'm not saying they're into trafficking, but if you looked carefully at what they went through, you sure as hell would think they were if You believe that what Diddy went through was trafficking. This was a party house. This was Hugh Hefner. It's not a racketeering ring. And then when you look at the whole notion of sex trafficking, remember what we're talking about: force, fraud, or coercion. Force, fraud, or coercion, not inconvenience, not threat. They could have walked out any time they wanted. They never called the police. Nobody called the police. Nobody ever. I don't know about you, but if I'm a part of this thing, I'm going to get out. I'm going to say, hey, listen, you better get over there because they're holding all these women. Nobody. You got to attack the consent and intent part of it. The best argument is that these were adult relationships. They were messy, they were toxic, they were disgusting, they were horrible. Again, perfect maybe for state court, perfect for lawsuits, but they could have left any time. He might have been manipulative, but it's not trafficking. Again, what I'm saying is it's not that I like this guy. Then there's the agency and participation aspect of it. These are criminal. These are legal aspects. The alleged victims remain in relationships, and they took money, they accepted gifts, they traveled by choice. There was no commercial sex arrangement, no forced or brokered commercial sex contract. It was intimate. It wasn't transactional in a legal sense. And they can undermine the force, fraud, the coercion element of it. You got to ask yourself: did the alleged victim ever call the police? Were there threats or just power imbalances? I mean, threats. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna send you back to your family. Did the prosecution prove intent to exploit? You could argue there was seduction, but there wasn't sex trafficking. It's a different story. What about transportation for prostitution? The Mann Act violation, white slavery? Oh, look at the intent and the definition. The best argument is that no one was trafficked across state lines or for prostitution. This was a private relationship, not a pimping operation. Attack the definition of prostitution. Was sex offered for money? Or was it a part of a consensual, romantic, celebrity lifestyle? Do you know this is going on right now? I mean, do you know what Hollywood is? Do you know what would, if we extended this to other aspects? You can highlight voluntary travel. Did the victims, the putative victims, the alleged victims, did they choose to travel for parties, for events, for relationships? Were they told to perform for pay? What was it? You undermine the intent of this. The prosecution's had to prove, and the jury's got to believe, that Combs intended to have someone cross state lines for illegal sex work. Prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. Prove it. It's tough. I mean, especially in the celebrity context of it. The argument would be that she traveled for love and fame and whatever it is, not for sale. And if you weaponize the spectacle, the defense can argue that this entire prosecution is political. It's about feeding the media machine. It's about the government turning a sordid individual, private relationship or gossip column into a federal indictment. Don't let the sex circus part undermine somebody's freedom. Go after the witnesses. Go after the money motive, the publicity, the lawsuits. You could highlight selective prosecution. Why now? Why after several suits? How do you think Cassie, whatever her name is, you think she hasn't been made whole by this? Come on. You would putting him in prison? Again, he's a dirtbag. The feds are turning Hollywood excess into organized crime. That's not justice, that's overkill. And the closing message had to have been this. I hope it was. I wasn't there. You may hate the parties, you may hate the drugs, you may hate the fame, you may hate him and hate everybody about him. But that's not your job. Your job is to decide whether the government proved its case beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt, beyond the moral certainty. And on that, ladies and gentlemen, they failed. They failed. They failed. And if you're really one of these, MAGA types, or if you're one of these, constitutional types, you better think and you better agree once and for all, that if this Constitution, if this thing means anything, this stupid son of a bitch that everybody hates, and I hate him too, I know I can't stand him, but that this guy, Diddy, he's not guilty. He's not guilty of this. The same way he wouldn't be guilty of murder without proving a death, or arson without proving anything was burned. You got what I'm saying? Good. I'd appreciate it if you like this video. We need your likes. Likes put us on the map. I've been straight with you the whole time. I've been good to you. You can be good to me. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure the subscriptions. 80% of the people who watch us don't even subscribe. And comment. I've got some questions for you. Comment, dear friends, as you see fit.